through technology an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. And many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
Today we're signing, this is very historic, an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. This is a promise that you made throughout the campaign, and today we're keeping that promise. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin that the federal government already owns, so it won't cost taxpayers a dime. This is like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. And premature sales of Bitcoin over the past years cost American taxpayers over $17 billion in lost value, because we didn't have a long-term strategy.
Right.
Now we do. So.
And this is something you believe in?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole community believes in it.
Very good. And then you made the promise, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No one in Latin America knows this is happening, and I think that's very significant. Because if they did, I think that, whether they're on the left or the right, or whether they believe in the official climate change narrative or not, why would you want this particular satellite company doing this, for example? Obviously a rather controversial proposal, and the local governments aren't managing the carbon credits at all. They're being traded and sold and custodied and all of this by these other groups. Not the local governments themselves. And also there's an effort to put this entire carbon market infrastructure expressly on the Bitcoin blockchain through a sidechain protocol.
This week on Garethicka Tonight, investigative journalist Whitney Webb joins us from Chile to discuss her latest investigation, Debt from the Skies. Webb reveals how Latin America is being targeted by powerful entities pushing climate change agendas that impose massive debts on vulnerable countries through complex financial instruments like carbon credits and debt for nature swaps, leading to a loss of sovereignty and control over natural resources. Webb also discusses how blockchain technology and Bitcoin are integrated into these schemes, tracking and enforcing these financial instruments. At the time of this discussion, Bitcoin's price is around $70,400, reflecting a 1% increase in the past 24 hours and an 8% increase over the past 30 days, with 19.7 million out of 21 million total Bitcoin in circulation.
As far as, exploiting people and resources in Latin America goes, when you're, the most vulnerable in countries like Peru, Colombia, and others, when they've been targeted, they're essentially voiceless minorities, a lot of them. And they have no way to really, negotiate or, try and protect what's theirs. And oftentimes, the militaries will be brought in against, these relatively vulnerable and voiceless people for the benefit of multinational mining corporations, for example. So, it really depends. It would really have to be sort of like a very significantly wide movement. And unfortunately, especially in the post-COVID era, there was this big effort to onboard everyone on the smartphones and cashless this and digital everything. And a lot of people have become, kind of mesmerized and much more docile, I would say, in Latin America after the COVID situation and everything and its impacts here. I would hope that there would be pushback. I live in Chile, and there is a good amount of pushback and efforts to start mining in southern Chile, but it depends, because a lot of the people that are looking to mine and extract and exploit are the most powerful people in the world, and view lithium, cobalt, and a lot of these other minerals that can be found in Latin America or in the Andes specifically, as essential to their ambitions for net zero 2030 and the electric vehicle, quote unquote, revolution. There's efforts to create all sorts of new financial projects under the guise of conserving nature or combating climate change, which are basically about, securitizing the natural world. I've written about this before in the context of natural asset corporations, but there's efforts to also create things like old growth forest bonds and all sorts of things like that. And the goal is to have it all be on blockchain and, tokenized so they can be easily traded. And this is, one of the major ambitions of people like Larry Fink, who is now, a big proponent of the Bitcoin ecosystem under certain metrics only, of course. And is also promoting the need to put literally every financial product on blockchain, so that it can be easily tradable and give it, a unique digital ID. So it's all part of this system that's been created, under the guise of, under the auspices of the UN, for example. But there's a lot more going on here as well. There's efforts also by the UN, the World Bank, and some of these other groups to institute what they call a climate wallet that would interface with digital ID and a presumed, CBDC digital wallet and have an interface with this carbon credit system. Recently, in just the past couple of days, we've had Christine Lagarde of the ECB say that the entire financial system needs to be rewired for climate change. And she's not the only one saying that. You have the head of climate finance at the UN, Mark Carney, former head of the Bank of England and Bank of Canada, and former Goldman Sachs guy. I'm also saying similar things. Larry Fink is saying similar things. The banker consensus is that the entire global economy has to be remade, and one of the main pillars of that new system they wish to impose on us is the carbon market, which they currently refer to as the voluntary carbon market. But like digital ID, it will be voluntary in name only. And so, the question is, how do you participate in the market? Are you going to be the person buying up the carbon credits? Are you going to have that capital? Or are you going to be selling off your carbon credits or selling off, your land and your resources, trying to monetize them in order to have some sort of, greater capital in this new system they're making?
As Whitney discusses the complex web of climate finance and debt, she explains how international organizations and financial institutions use climate change initiatives to control Latin American economies. She provides detailed examples of countries burdened with unmanageable debts under environmental sustainability programs, and how, since COVID, there is a push for digital wallets across Latin America. Webb's extensive research and on-the-ground investigations reveal strategies employed by these powerful entities, offering a look at the true cost of these so-called green initiatives. Her insights emphasize the need for awareness and resistance against these economic exploitation tactics masked as climate policies. Let's listen more to what Whitney has to say on this discussion.
Right. So the whole agenda behind net zero, sustainable development, digital identity, cashless society, UBIs, you own nothing and be happy. All these are intertwined together. They are all the same agenda, really, as what you're seeing here. Bitcoin, right? Blockchains. So all of this are all intertwined together to push for this new digital age where everything will be tracked. Every thing you do, basically, to the point where even how much carbon you're emitted. That is the first clip you saw, the individual talking about carbon tracker. You will be tracked on how much carbon you're emitting in the society. That is the whole Green New Deal, sustainable development. So they're all together, cashless society. And it's not just an isolated case of something happening in Latin America. Nah, this concerns the whole world because it is going to be a worldwide thing. Digital identity, right? The second clip you saw, he was using the jabby jabs and how to keep track on who has gotten the jabs. And for that to take place, you have to have a very good digital infrastructure, quote unquote. He used that term, digital infrastructure. What does that mean? Well, that's that digital identity where everything you do will be tracked, monitored, right? And they have so many means to get us there. We will get back to this because this lady here, she's making a very, very good point. Webb, I believe her name is. Forget what her first name is. But yeah, we'll come back to this. But before, yeah, Whitney Webb, that's her name. 624. All right, we'll come back to that real quick. Let's get Second Ezra, the 68th chapter. Second Ezra, the 16th chapter and the 68th verse. It says, "For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision, and in reproach, and trodden underfoot." All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachahakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and continue to teach us this truth. Peace, salutation, shalom, shalom, shalom to all your brothers and sisters out there that are of the household of faith, beginning with 144,000 mighty men of the house of Israel, down to the men, women, and children that are allotted to be delivered in this latter days, who are of the elect, and to the brothers that are pushing this gospel in all sincerity and in all honesty. To you all, I say, shalom. Right? So, this whole agenda, this 2030 agenda, the main component of the 2030 agenda is the digital infrastructure, everything going digital, basically, right? Everything going online. Now you see why there's a push for artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence will be like the governing body behind this whole digital infrastructure. So they have to have an artificial intelligence that will monitor everything that goes online, right? Which will be programmed by the ones pushing the agendas to respond in certain kind of ways, right? But then again, you think about movies like Terminator, Starlink going online and learning things and becomes goes rogue, basically, you know? So you have to think about all of that. But the clip we saw, they are pushing for this digital infrastructure. And for that to happen, there has to be a chaotic event that will lead us there, just like during 2020 with the whole, pandemic thing, right? That was a chaotic event that led people to be more susceptible to accepting the juicy juice. And with this whole digital infrastructure, that's where you get the term the phoenix rising from the ashes. So that is, once they break down this present system, which the American dollar ties into this present system. That's why I see the devaluing of the American dollar, the fiat currencies, right? Federal Reserve, there's been an attack on Federal Reserves and things. All of this are done by design because the old ways of doing things is coming to a head, and we are pushing forward to the new way, and this new way is all digital. That's where you get your fourth industrial revolution from. So that's technology ruling in this natural world we live in, right? So let's get back to this clip real quick and finish it out.
This discussion.
So, when focusing on what may happen to get us there, I prefer to focus on where they're trying to take us. because that's something that we can look at, document, and it's very clear. And that may help us, help more effectively resist the psyops that we are being barraged with to try and get us to consent to all of this.
Yep. She made a very profound point. So to get us there, they have to use all kinds of psyops, chaos, orchestrated chaos to get us there, right? To get you to yield, to consent. That was why I had to pull that scripture in 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter, the 68th verse, 68 and 69 verse, which tells you that even when you consent to them, you will be had in derision. And that was proven during the whole, pandemic thing. People that consented, right? Nothing got better. If anything, things got worse, right? A lot of people are still suffering the effects of consenting to that. But, they'll have to give you this boogeyman, all these psyops, right? Nothing is just happening by happenstance. Even the planes falling out of the skies. These are all part of this. See?
And of course, one of the main things here is to basically do what they did during COVID with vaccine passports, impose digital ID on everyone, because that is the foundation for the whole Sustainable Development Goal or Agenda 2030 agenda, which is about remaking every aspect of our lives for global technocracy. Among other things. And so, there's a big effort right now that I've been focusing on in some of my articles, efforts to manufacture consent, for example, in the US for a biometric entry-exit system under the guise of tackling illegal immigration. And this is happening in other places in the world as well. And I would argue that what's going on there is an effort to convince the populist, right-leaning populists in the U.S. To support digital ID, which they were against during the COVID era.
Right. You see how they get you? So even when Biden was in office, they used Biden to let all these illegal immigrants in, All of that was done by design. Right now they have Trump trying to get him out, and which eventually now you have Trump. His right-hand man is Elon Musk, which Elon Musk is part of that technocratic individuals that will be the forerunners of all this digital identity, brain chips, right? RFID microchips, which is the biometrics that she's talking about, because you have to have a digital identifications, and part of that digital identification is surveillance under the skin, which that is a term Yuval Noah Harari used. Surveillance under the skin. What is that? That is the RFID microchip, right? Transponder they call, I believe, to track you. Remember the first clip you saw, which is carbon tracker. How do you think they're going to do that? Well, they have to have that surveillance under your skin. They have to have this biometrics to be able to keep tabs on you, what you're doing, how much meat you're consuming, right? How much carbon you're expelling, how many times did you fart in a day, right? So that's all part of that. That's what she's going into, and she's making a whole lot of profound points just with the way they push, to get the juicy juice, right? And the digital identity behind that. Well, they will do that also to get this whole digital thin infrastructure up and running, right? Even the hate speech is all tied into that, right?
And there's a lot of other efforts to do that as well, whether it's, trying to sell it as necessary for voter identification when you can continue using the same IDs that people have used before, or use physical IDs as opposed to digital IDs. And I think a big part of that is because they need to psyop us and manufacture consent for these policies, because they won't work without our compliance and our obedience to them. And so, they...
Right. We'll come back to this real quick. We have to get this here in 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter. And let's start with the 68th verse. It says, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you. That's a wrath of the NWO, the New World Order, right? The Agenda 2030. They can't wait to get this thing up and running. So for that to happen, they have to sign up you into going along with the agendas. They have to bring all kinds of chaos, no matter how it can come in all kinds of ways, right? The EMP attacks, internet going off, right? No electricity, the power being shut down. They just had the TV series with what is his name? The Italian dude. I can't think of his name right now. Where the power grid went off, right? Robert De Niro, right. So the innumerable kind of ways where they can get you to yield. So that is that burning wrath of a great multitude kindled over you. And they shall take away certain of you. What is that? That is the concentration camps, right? Because believe you me, there are already concentration camps around. Even Walmart is designed to be a concentration camp. So all they need is the right agendas, and a lot of all this shopping malls will be, they have that Walmart. If you read it from back to front, it goes martial law, right? So that is what you see. It says, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. And part of that things offered unto idols is the RFID, the microchip, which is the mark of the beast. So they will get you to yield to that. That's why it says here, and they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden underfoot. So even when they break you down and have you yield to this NWO agenda, guess what? It is never for your own good. You will pay the hefty price for consenting, because you're not supposed to consent to that. You are not supposed to.
What happened in COVID was a big test for a lot of that, but obviously, they've learned lessons from that, and we should have as well. And we need to.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't mean to stop it, but she just said something, right? Because they themselves, the ones that are pushing this agenda, the wicked elites, right? And they can't wait to get this whole thing going. They've learned a lot since the pandemic thing, right? Now, we also should have learned something, right? We shouldn't have just been living your life like nothing happened. That was a learning experience for both the wicked elites and us also, to see what it is they're planning, how easily they can push something and get the people to get along to go along. And at the end of the day, even when you get along to go along, it doesn't pay for you to do that. As a matter of fact, you'll be the one to pay dearly, right? In a lot of cases, with your life even.
To focus on not complying with these various policy goals and not onboarding to these various systems they're going to try and force us onto, and find ways to live independently from them. Because whether it's, war or famine, they could try and offer what they're doing now with the World Food Program's Building Blocks program. If you want rations, humanitarian rations, you want to be able to eat. If you're a refugee, you have to scan your eyeball and pay with a digital wallet linked to your biometrics. It's essentially...
Basically, they will back you into a corner to consent. Like you're saying, they're going to use famines, all kinds of stuff, pestilences, diseases, right? Imagine, like, control the food, you control the people. They have that saying out there. I believe it was Henry Kissinger that made that statement, right? So you control the food supply. Now you understand why a couple of years ago there were a lot of warehouses burning down, right? And there have been a push to stop farmers from producing food. And even in the Netherlands, they have a lot of farming industry, right? And the farmers have been protesting for a very long time, letting you know that the farmers are under attack. Even in America, A lot of farmers were being paid a huge amount of money to basically destroy their livestock and get rid of everything that they have, their produce. See? So they manufacture this famine to put you in a bind. When you can't eat, you can't feed your families, right? What are you going to do, right? We're going to break you down into yielding, to bend the knee by taking away one of life's basic necessities, which is food.
Operates the same way as Sam Altman's WorldCoin, which is being, foisted on people in Latin America right now that are in places that are, experiencing a lot of economic desperation, like Argentina specifically. And that could be one way they try and onboard people. It could be saying we need everyone to have. We need to know who everyone is for everyone's safety, coming at it from the safety angle, or we need to, everyone has to have a digital ID to get online, to stop hate speech, to stop terrorism before it happens. I mean, there's infinite number of narratives they could use. They could use, they're talking about the bird flu thing right now. They could try and just do what they did during COVID and go back to vaccine passports and try and get digital ID that way again. I think they're considering that if one of those doesn't work, maybe they'll do all three or do more. But ultimately,
that's what it is. They will bombard you with a lot of psyops till you give in. This is what they do. And they don't really have a lot of tactics. One of their main tactics is just to overwhelm you with a lot of things going on that you just give in. You be like, oh, to hell with it, right? And a lot of people have lost patience. They don't really have the mental fortitude to endure all of this psyops. They just break, right? They're like, oh man, give it whatever to give us that illusion of normalcy. We'll take it.
ultimately the goal is to get us onboarded to digital ID, so we should keep our eyes on that and resist that at all costs and refuse to comply, regardless of the justification or the selling points or the psyops. We should know that that is the thing to be resisted, because once that system is in place, they can essentially do everything they want. They have their social credit paradigm, they have complete surveillance control, and that's ultimately what the goal of a lot of these policy agendas are. And of course, digital ID is intimately folded into the idea of digital programmable and surveillable money, whether it's a central bank digital currency or the efforts by the private commercial banks to issue CBDC equivalents, which doesn't get enough airtime in my opinion, because they're definitely doing that as well. But ultimately it's to have force upon people a programmable, surveillable existence, and that is what we should be focusing on and resisting. And there's a lot of efforts to have us focused on one piece of the different puzzle, or one of the possible avenues that they will use to try and, scare us really into onboarding into these systems. But if we keep our eyes on what the policy agenda is, we can avoid a lot of those things that are sent intentionally to distract us or to
policy agendas. And one of the clips you saw is Donald Trump signing Bitcoin and digital assets, he called it. And it's like the individual that was proposing the executive order, he called it a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. Why do you think that is? Why do you think he signed something like that? Well, that is all part of that digital cashless money, cashless society, where everything will be tracked.
unsettle us or to make us afraid, and focus on resisting and not complying.
As the push for digital wallets is promoted in Latin America under the narrative of climate control, will this ultimately push people into complying with these systems? Imagine a world where, to eat, you have to scan your eyeball, like the WorldCoin project from Sam Altman being pushed in Latin America.
It's not just going to be the scan. The Bible tells you about this. That's the crazy thing about it. You see how this individual put it? Imagine to eat, you have to scan your eyeball. What does the Bible say? Well, let's get there real quick, because everything is contained in the scriptures. It warns you about this, what is happening right now. You're being warned about that. Let's get there real quick. It's very, very, very crucial that you understand what is happening. This is Revelations, the 13th chapter and the 16th verse. It says, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell. He just said it. You need to scan your eyeball to, get food. So every transaction that has to be done will be under what? You will be scanned. You have to be scanned to do any kind of transaction, buying, selling, whatever, going online, purchasing something online. You have to have that digital identification, which that digital identification ties into the mark of the beast that's being said here. It says, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. See, you already have Elon Musk walking on the forehead then. Says, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast, and or the number of his name, right? You have to have that mark. So here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. This is the town we're coming into. Which brings us here in Revelations, the 3rd chapter and the 10th verse. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience. What is that? That is this truth, this knowledge, this understanding that comes from the word of the Lord. You see, because you've kept it. What does it mean by keep it? Well, you didn't sell it. You didn't lose it. You maintained this word, and you kept this word. You kept the words that are written in the scriptures. In other words, you did what the Bible warned you to do. You lived your life to the best of your ability, heeding to the warnings of the scriptures. Right? Says, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation. What is that? Well, when the mark of the beast is mandated, so it's going to come a point where, like everything we'll be going throughout this lesson was about how you will be pushed to consent to this digital infrastructure, digital identity, right? Which ties in with the mark of the beast. That is the hour of temptation. Just like what happened with the pandemic then, right? Everybody, it came to a point where it pushed you to get that then, right? Which was a trial run. Like you heard the Whitney Webb, she made that observation also. Said they've learned a lot through that trial during the pandemic, which we also supposed to have learned a lot from that, right? So that's what it's saying here, the hour of temptation, where you will be required to get the mark of the beast, to the point where you may very well lose your life if you don't want to get it. Is that something you'll be willing to do, to lose your life or consent? Because remember, even if when you consent, there's not a guarantee that it will be, as a matter of fact, you will be effing yourself up when you consent to this. Remember, we should have learned something from the pandemic, right? It says, which shall come upon all the world. So like I said earlier, it's not an isolated case of something that is just happening in Latin America. It's going to be upon all the world. Just to try them that dwell upon the earth. See that? Try them that dwell upon the earth. And for that, it says, behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. So keep your integrity to the very end, because we are about to go through it. Revelation, the 12th chapter and the 12th verse, it says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you. In other words, are about to go haywire. Like you said, all kinds of psyops. Prepare for that. All kinds of chaos. To get to that. That is that. The phoenix rising from the ashes. They'll turn this world upside down to get to their desired agenda. It says, For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time. So the wicked elite, they have a very short time to get this whole digital infrastructure going. For them to do that, they will come at you from all angles, right? From all angles. And you heard Whitney Webb go through a lot of the ways that they can use to get you to do that, right? So this is a little something. Keep your eyes open, right? Always stay watchful and don't be willfully ignorant, especially in these latter days that we're in. Keep a watchful eye on what is happening around you. Don't be easily distracted, with the bread and circuses. You see? And with that, all praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, HaKadosh. Double honors to apostles and elders of Great Millstone. See you next time, Lord willing. Shalom. Shalom.